Good evening, everyone. Severe Weather Team 9 meteorologist Nate the Chut joining you for this edition of Nate at 8. Hot and humid, certainly the story again for today. And that's not going to change much as we do extend into the weekend, although I think the hottest temperatures are now behind us as we do look ahead for the remainder of this week. I think it's not quite as hot, still very close to what we had today, but technically I don't think quite as hot as we do look ahead as we do extend going into the weekend. So coming up for this edition of Day to Day, of course, we'll dive into the temperatures, humidity, how hot it's going to feel with the heat index. We'll dive into that as we look ahead into the weekend. But I think overall, the warmest temperatures are behind us. This afternoon was likely it, and yesterday, and now, while still, again, I think close, I think within a handful of degrees, these highs can still be close, but technically, I think the hottest temperatures are behind us. Remaining humid, so the humidity I do not foresee dropping at all, and at all as we go through the weekend, but the temperatures will likely trend a little cooler at this point. And why? Well, more cloud cover and rain ahead. So we deal with more cloud cover and some showers and thunderstorms primarily to these afternoon to evening hours, and that will start to trend us then a bit cooler going into these days in the weekend. And unfortunately, with that, the potential there for showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon to evening, there's that potential for severe thunderstorms as well as localized flooding, likely for most, if not all, of these days ahead. There's at least some potential there. So unfortunately, this is just a stretch of time where we want to remain vigilant and keep weather aware and have multiple ways to get warnings and keep an eye on the sky. Just keep in mind now as the week does progress at this point that we're likely going to start to see some thunderstorms return, and just need to be mindful of the weather going into the afternoon and evening hours, and be prepared in the instance of a warning that could be issued into these afternoon and evening hours. So our current temperatures now are falling back into the 80s. High temperatures today coming off the 90s. Not records at Wheeling, that was 98 degrees. Not near that, but we did tie the record in New Philadelphia at 94. It tied it in Morgantown and a few other locations across the tri-state area, coming up short into Pittsburgh as well. But it was certainly near for a lot of these climate sites. It was near some record highs for today, mid-lower 90s across the region. And again, I think from here, it's still hot, but, very warm to hot, I think you could say. But technically, likely not quite as warm as what we had for today. I think we're back upper 80s, lower 90s for a lot of this stretch going into the weekend. Back to around 90 Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So again, maybe just into the 90s, but mid-lower 90s, I don't think we're going to repeat that. So technically, not as hot, but is it a big relief? No, it's not a big drop in temperatures. It's still going to feel hot and humid to us as we go through the weekend. And again, the humidity not going anywhere. It is still unbearably humid for every single day here as we go into early next week. And the relief is in sight, but it likely holds off until we start the new month. So until the middle of next week is when we'll finally start to see a drop in that humidity. Good evening, Austin, joining us from YouTube. Today was another brutal hot day. Hoping and praying we don't get any more hot weather like this through the rest of summer. Well, it certainly looks to be early July, and it does, time up well, I think, going into the 4th of July as well, that the humidity and these temperatures do not look as excessive as they are right now. Still looks warm, and maybe that's a good thing if you've got plans, maybe be on a lake or be by the pool. It still looks warm into the 4th of July, but it does not look hot and humid like this stretch that we're dealing with right now. So the humidity does look more tolerable. The temperature is warm, but more seasonable, right? Not excessive, not 90 plus. So, I think overall, that being said, I think the weather does look pretty nice going into the 4th of July. So we're getting this just hot, humid, just uncomfortable stretch of weather out of the way. And by the time the 4th of July rolls around, I think that, ultimately it's still warm, right? It's, 'tis the season, right, for these warm temperatures, but it's certainly more pleasant in terms of not dealing with unbearably humid conditions and not excessively hot going into the 4th of July. Wilma says, thank you. Well, thank you, Wilma. Thanks for tuning in with us on this edition of Nate at 8. Thank you for everyone joining me for this edition of Nate at 8. So there's the muggy meter. And again, well, it's not dropping anytime soon. It's remaining right around 70, mid lower 70s, maybe at times, just unbearably humid. You just almost instantly sweat as soon as you step outside the door. These humidity levels just do not drop through the weekend and even into Monday. It's likely later Tuesday into Wednesday that we'll finally start to see that drop in humidity, which again coincides really with the beginning of July. It's when we'll start to notice that further drop in humidity. So that being said, when it remains very humid and these high temperatures still near 90 degrees for a lot of these days ahead through the weekend, it will still feel well into the 90s. I think ultimately, again, similar to what we've had here as of recent, but trending a little bit lower in terms of the heat index. We could still near 100 tomorrow, but I think it's more upper 90s. The heat advisory I know is still in effect through tomorrow. I think they kept keeping that in effect just with the potential to reach 100. That's the threshold. So you deal with 100 plus heat index that would prompt a heat advisory. And it's less likely that we're going to reach that threshold Thursday, Friday, or for the weekend. So that's why the heat advisory is not being continued Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But as you can see, it's still feeling similar, right? A few degree difference, that's really not noticeable. It's still hot and humid. It's going to feel well in the 90s likely for these afternoons looking ahead going through the weekend. So not as hot, but again, really we're talking about a difference of with the air temperature, a handful of degrees for a lot of these days. The heat index, a few degrees, really for as hot and humid as it is, it's really not that noticeable, right? With the little bit of a cool down we get going into the weekend. So we have that potential for a stray shower and thunderstorm in place for this afternoon. Now, not coming to fruition for the afternoon. For this evening, though, it's been a different story. So we are watching some showers and thunderstorms. We've had some shower activity as we have looked further south of I-70 into Noble, Monroe County. You notice what did develop just tapering off, nothing really holding together too well south of I-70. But there has been that stray shower. We're watching for that stray shower thunderstorm moving into Stark County. It'll be making its way east towards Columbiana County. So we still could hear through this evening and continuing into early tonight, that potential still there for a stray shower thunderstorm. It likely doesn't stick around too long into the overnight hours, but we could deal with that stray shower thunderstorm. I think the potential for impacts is very low from what we do see in place as we extend throughout this evening. But we'll continue to monitor some of these isolated showers and thunderstorms in place, which again can carry over this evening into early tonight. It'll taper off overnight and then we'll dry back up for Wednesday morning. Not anticipating any precipitation around for Wednesday morning's commute, and likely quite a bit of sunshine will be greeting us as well tomorrow morning. A warm, muggy start, lows mid to lower 70s, then those high temperatures likely topping off back to near 90. And while we do have a lot of sunshine, I think, to begin the day tomorrow, we'll deal with more clouds as the day does progress. And we're going to be dealing with, instead of a chance we had for today, it's more likely tomorrow to deal with these scattered showers and thunderstorms. Yes, still scattered in nature, but I think, much better odds we're dealing with these showers and thunderstorms over our area with respect to that chance we had for today. So watch for the scattered showers and thunderstorms popping up in the afternoon, continuing into the evening, and then tapering off early on Wednesday night. And notice what happens again Thursday. Similar story, right? Popping up in the afternoon, continuing into the evening, tapering off early Thursday night. And guess what? We can repeat that again going into Friday. So this is going to be a similar pattern, I think, here, especially over the next 3 days. Dry mornings, wet afternoon, evenings. And we'll be dealing with these scattered showers and thunderstorms popping up in the afternoon, continuing in the evening, tapering off likely early at night. And this is a similar pattern, again, I think, for the next 3 days. Are we expecting the measurable rain for tomorrow night? Austin is asking. And yeah, maybe early on. So, afternoon, evening, maybe early tomorrow night, but overnight, likely not much. No, I think it tapers off pretty quick. So, possibly they're very early tomorrow night, but I think that precipitation does come to an end rather quick. So not much if there is some. And again, if there is some, it's real early likely, Austin, tomorrow night. We could see some continue towards sunset, maybe shortly after, but likely doesn't stick around for too long. So that rain threat, as we do look ahead going into the weekend, again, is similar pattern the next 3 days: dry mornings and then wet afternoon, evenings. I think that's very similar Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We can't break this some Saturday. We can't have some showers and thunderstorms continue Friday night into Saturday morning. There could be a few around, but the emphasis Saturday is certainly still in the afternoon and evening. So I still think the bulk of the rain we see Saturday remains in the afternoon and evening. Now, by Sunday, coverage can drop off. It can be more hit or miss. There can be more of us to stay dry for the second half of the weekend before it picks back up on Monday. And yep, the emphasis Mondays in the afternoon and evening. Now, I will say Monday night, scattered showers and thunderstorms are likely, so they will likely carry overnight Monday. That will be with a cold front passage, and we'll see that front pass, some lingering showers Tuesday morning, and then comes the relief from the humidity behind that cold front passage, finally returning around the middle of next week. And those highs, not a big cool down. They'll be back further towards the mid-lower 80s, so a little bit cooler with respect to this stretch. But the bigger difference is certainly going to be that humidity, as it's much more tolerable at that point, arriving around the middle of next week. Certainly we'll notice that. And unfortunately, during this stretch, when we're dealing with these scattered showers and thunderstorms into these afternoon and evenings, yes, that potential is there for localized flooding. We'll have some very heavy downpours within these thunderstorms, and that potential is unfortunately there, while isolated, I think, for some flooding. So we will have to keep vigilant in that regard. Yes, the potential is there as well for some strong to severe thunderstorms. Damaging winds looks to be the primary concern for what we have coming our way here, as we do go likely as we extend here over the next couple of days. That would be the primary concern. Maybe some large hail, but certainly the damaging winds would be the primary concern from what we have coming our way here near term. And again, localized flooding, that potential is there likely for these days as well in the afternoon and evening. So now's the time, it's just a good stretch of weather to, keep weather aware going into throughout the day, especially in the afternoon and evening. Keep an eye on the sky, watch for changing weather conditions. Keep an eye out for any warnings issued. Have multiple ways to get that warning. Obviously, our mobile phone is a great way, right? And if you download the Severe Weather Team 9 mobile app, that can alert you of any warnings issued for your area. Also gives you a heads up with rain heading your way or lightning detected near you. So it's a very handy tool to have if you just go to your app store on your phone and just search for Severe Weather Team 9. The app will pop up for you. And it's a great tool to have here going throughout this week to give you a heads up for those showers and thunderstorms popping up in the afternoon, if one's heading your way, if lightning's been detected near you, or if we have any warnings issued. And not only, have the mobile phone, but at home, you can tune in on TV, either that or social media, or the other best ways, NOAA Weather Radio, or just a radio in general. Just have multiple ways to, keep an eye and ear out for any warnings issued for your location, if there are any, and, just be prepared to take action in the event of a warning as we do extend into the weekend. As yes, unfortunately, the potential for impacts is there. And I really think for a lot of these days ahead through the weekend, that potential for impacts is there. So that's why I say just have to keep vigilant and, just stay on top of the weather. And keep weather aware, right, as we go through the weekend. And don't be caught off guard with any warnings issued or with any of these thunderstorms present as we do look ahead. Still have some dry times for these days. So, if you still need to get some yard work in, you have the first half of a lot of these days are mainly, if not completely dry, especially Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Again, maybe some more rain around Saturday morning. And then Sunday, the coverage is more hit or miss. So if you're making plans for the weekend, I think, Sunday's going to be the better day. Still can't guarantee that you're completely dry from what you have planned for the weekend, but the coverage Sunday certainly looks to be a lot less for those showers and thunderstorms with respect to Saturday, picking back up than Monday. That's the cold front passage. So again, I think we do see some showers and thunderstorms sticking around Monday night, and we can see some lingering showers and a thunderstorm Tuesday, primarily for the morning. And then we get behind that, a decrease in cloud cover Tuesday night, and we'll see a mix of sun and clouds then Wednesday, back back to more sunshine Thursday. And yes, that can carry over into the 4th of July next Friday. And I think these highs are more seasonable going into the 4th of July. Highs around the mid 80s. And again, I think the humidity more tolerable. I don't want to say it's refreshing or comfortable, but certainly more tolerable, I think, is likely going into the 4th of July. So it's not as excessive when it comes to this heat or humidity that's in place now through the weekend as we do look ahead for that first week of July. So certainly good news there as we look ahead. Going to be keeping an eye on statistics with this stretch. I think this stretch can be pretty significant in terms of these averages, especially these warm nights. We have a long stretch here of potential with these lows 70 plus. This could rival some of the longest stretch on record for the Wheeling area. So these overnight lows 70 plus, which can carry over even at early next week. It'll be close likely by that point, maybe dropping just in the 60s, but that's certainly something we'll keep an eye on that can be noteworthy with those low 70 plus. These average temperatures as well, when you look at the high and the low and average it out, the average temperatures during the stretch could be something noteworthy as well. We could end up with, in terms of the warmest week, a warmest 7-day stretch with the average temperature, it could be within the top 10, at least in terms of the average temperature, the warmest on record for the Wheeling area. So I know these afternoons, we're thinking, wow, we've had warmer afternoons, right? And we have, we've been mid upper 90s. We've had warmer afternoons. We have not had that registered at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. It's been hovering more lower 90s during this stretch. We haven't reached mid upper 90s. We've had warmer days. We had warmer days last year, but still when you average these temperatures out, and it's more so the overnight lows being 70 plus, averaging out with those highs still well in the 80s, if not into the 90s, that it can still just, when we average that out, still quite an impressive warm stretch of weather as we do look ahead. So is this the warmest stretch of these high temperatures in the afternoon? No. But when you factor in these just unseasonably warm overnight lows into the 70s, that it can come out as be one of the warmest weeks on record for the Wheeling area. So I'm going to be doing a lot of digging in the statistics, going to give it a little bit longer here into this stretch. But yeah, there's certainly a lot, I think, to dig into that can be quite impressive with this just hot stretch of weather. And, similar, if you think back to last year, we had this similar hot stretch last June, and we did deal with a long stretch there of lows 70 plus. We did deal with an average temperature 80 plus, with an average temperature during this stretch as well for nearly a week. We had that last June. We had some mid 90s in the mix at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport in last June, and similar timing. It occurred a little bit earlier to the month than what we're dealing with right now, but similar timing, temperatures, those highs again trended a little bit warmer in the afternoon, but it is, if you think back to just last year, we had that hot stretch of weather around this time of the year as well. And that was an impressive hot stretch of weather around this time last year. It did not have a repeat in July, but we did in August. So we'll see. Maybe that pans out the same way this year as well. We had another hot stretch last year in August, if you recall, a couple impressive hot stretches of weather into June and August of last year. And certainly seeing that repeat for this June. And we'll see. Let's see if it repeats in August. Certainly, at least for the beginning of July, we do not look to see. We likely do not see this repeat for the beginning of the new month. And I'm sure there's a lot of you that are happy with that news. We're not seeing this hot and humid stretch of weather continue at the beginning of the month. I think, we're getting this out of the way. And I think ultimately going into the 4th of July, hopefully these nice conditions can carry over into the weekend as well. I do have some worries that maybe the rain chances will start to pick up. It's way too early at this point to make any final call. I'm talking about, into the 4th of July weekend. It's a long ways off when it comes to forecasting the weather, but hopefully it does. I do have some worries that maybe the rain chances will start to pick up around that point, but hopefully not. And of course, we'll bring you the latest on how we stand with the 4th of July forecast here over the next week. So make sure to stay tuned for the latest on that. And again, just to summarize, here near term, we have to keep vigilant, keep weather aware, right? Unfortunately, we're dealing with these showers of thunderstorms popping up in the afternoon. on really a daily basis as we go through the weekend and even into Monday of next week as well before we break this cycle. During this stretch, I think for most of these days, there's that potential for strong to severe thunderstorm that can contain some high winds, localized flooding potentials there as well, unfortunately, with some heavy downpours within these thunderstorms. So keep weather aware, watch for any warnings, be prepared to take action if a warning is issued. Execute the plan then if a warning is issued, right? Just be prepared here as we go throughout this week. And of course, I'll be keeping a very close eye on where we stand with everything going throughout the week as well, and keeping you guys updated on what you need to know, what to watch for as we go throughout the week. I'll have the latest coming up on News 9 at 10 on Fox 9, News 9 tonight at 11. And as always, you can catch me right back here for the next edition of Nate at 8 tomorrow evening. Until then, have a great night. I hope you stay cool, and I'll see you on the next edition of Nate at 8.